Hello, welcome back to the channel. So out of all the archetypes in the game right now, Break feels like it's in kind of a weird spot where you can beat most of the content in the game with it, but it also kind of just feels the worst to play. And I think that is for a couple. One, it is like the only archetype where you have to fulfill a requirement to be allowed to do damage. Like, yeah, there are some characters like Acheron or Finon that mainly rely on their ultimates to be able to do a lot of damage, but their skills also at least still do some damage, and you can get them online a lot faster than you can break a lot of bosses. Especially since Break is one of the only archetypes that doesn't have action advance for it, besides just on Firefly and Rappa's ultimates. So a lot of the time, for half the fight, it just feels like you just aren't able to do anything. Especially since a lot of bosses like the Flame Reaver can just go immune, so it'll just take you even longer to be able to break them so you can start doing damage. Like, yeah, once you break them, you are probably going to kill them. But most bosses have multiple phases, so you're just gonna have to go through the whole process again, and it just takes so long. Like, Dot kind of has a similar thing where you don't have that much action advance, but Dot can actually do damage all the time, and on the enemy's turns as well, so it is kind of made up for that, and they just do a lot more damage in general, especially with High Ceilings out now. And you could say, oh, just make a new Break character. You know, it worked for Dot, and yeah, you could. But there is only so much you can do with Break, because it is just such a limiting mechanic. Which I think is why near the end of 2.x, a lot of people were kind of sick of Break, because it kind of just plays the same way every single time. Especially since we got 3 Break DPSs for some reason. Like, I think Firefly and Boot Hill were enough. I don't think that Rappa needed to be a Break DPS as well. Like, Follow Up also got a lot of DPS as well, but I think that there is a lot more that you can do with Follow Up, so they felt a lot more unique from each other. Like, Fei Xiao is a lot more ultimate-oriented. Yun Li is made based on, like, counters, you know? Not to say any of the Break DPSs weren't unique at all. You know, Boot Hill is mainly about, you know, stacking and doing big, like, nuke damage in one hit. Firefly is mainly about going into, like, her enhanced state and just spamming her skill. Rappa is mainly about, you know, doing big AoE damage. But they still kind of just have the same core gameplay of just break the enemy and just do a lot of super break damage. So it just makes them feel way too samey compared to a lot of other characters. It doesn't help that every break team is almost the exact same. Like Ruan Mei, and then Fugue, and either Lingsha or Gallagher. And yeah, you do have Harmony MC in place of Fugue, but with Remembrance MC now, who is really good at a lot of teams, you can't really run one or the other. You basically have to either run Break or you have to run all of your other teams. Or you're just basically forced to have Fugue if you want to play them with anyone like Caster. So it's kind of in this weird spot where it needs more characters because of how limiting it is. People kind of got sick of Break, so they just stopped making them. And I don't know if people would actually want more Break characters now anyway. I think that maybe if they just made like one, like every once in a while, it could be fine. Like, not as big of a gap as something like Preservation had, because I think that was way too long. But enough where it doesn't just feel like we're just constantly getting the same thing over and over again. I feel like Super Break as a mechanic did solve the main problem with, you know, Break, with Break as a whole that we kind of saw with Shui, where you don't really do anything once you break the enemy's toughness. But it kind of created a new problem where you're basically just reliant on one mechanic for a lot of your characters to even work at all. And there are some other characters that also do kind of have this problem with Agawaya and Sunday, but at least she can still kind of work with Tingyun even if it isn't nearly as good. And she still at least has synergy with other supports like Robin and, you know, and Tribby and all of those characters. Break has no synergy with anything other than itself, which I think would be fine if there was more than just Ruan Mei. Yeah, we did get her for free, so most people probably have her at this point that would want her. But there is also the problem of, like, sometimes you need both Harmony MC and Fugue and Ruan Mei on the teams just to be able to break fast enough because of how high the toughness bars are getting. So for a lot of other characters where you need to worry just about, you know, the enemy's HP going up, which you can kind of solve with just getting better artifacts, Break needs to worry about the HP going up and the toughness going up, so they basically have to do twice the amount of work as most other characters. On top of that, a lot of other characters can reduce toughness just as fast, if not faster, than most of the Break characters can. Like, if you do just one facial ult, that's already going to be like at least like maybe half of their bar already down. Or even like Castros, who can also just break pretty fast as well, or just most of the characters in 3.0 can break pretty fast. Or even like Finon, who just does like one enhanced D and already like half their bar is gone. Also, like, Break's whole playstyle of, like, whittling down the boss's toughness to be able to do big damage doesn't work as well, but most of the characters aren't really tanky at all. Firefly does take reduced damage, but that's, like, the only one. Gallagher is kind of slow when it comes to keeping up with healing, especially with a lot of the faster bosses, and Linkshot does definitely help, but then you kind of run into the problem of not being able to break the boss's toughness fast enough, and also not having any action advance just makes it so sometimes you just get chunked and just die before you can break against any of the tankier bosses, especially if you're running triple support. And you could say, oh, just don't run them against those bosses. Which, like, sure. But most bosses are kind of becoming like that now. And even then, if an archetype is only good against, like, 1 or 2 bosses in the game, I think there's kind of a problem with that. Now, I don't think Break is, like, unplayable, like most of the past 2.0 characters. You can make them work. I just think that out of all the 2.x archetypes, Break, I think, has fared the worst out of all of them. Like, Acheron got Cypher, and Silverwolf got buffed as well. You know, Dot got high ceilings. Follow-up still, I think, feels mostly fine to play. Like, even in Apocalyptic Shadow, where breaking the enemy is, like, the main goal, it doesn't even feel that great because their toughness bars are way higher. So it's kind of just like, why not just play someone like Finon or Casters, or even Archer, who does just a lot more damage and can break them just as well. Like, I think Break is kind of where Dot was before, where they were kind of just pretty mediocre for a while and really needed help, and then Kafka finally got buffed, which helped her feel a lot less clunky, and then we got High Ceilings who really, brought Dot back together. I think the same thing could happen to Break if we got a new support that maybe, like, gave action advance and buffed Break at the same time. And maybe even if they buffed one of the characters, which, let's be honest, is probably going to be Firefly if anyone gets a buffed, they try to push her so much. Like, it is kind of ironic that the best Break characters right now are the ones that are not locked to Break as an archetype. Like, Ron May can work with Casterus and Dot. Gallagher and Linkshot can just work in a lot of teams, because you're always just going to need a sustain. I don't know, I do kind of doubt that we are going to see any new Break character for a while, though, since it seems like once we get to a new version, the old mechanic is just kind of abandoned. Like, maybe we might get, like, one, like we got one preservation character this patch, but it seems like Elation is going to be kind of the new big thing, which I have no idea how that's going to work, and I don't want to know until it comes out. I do hope that they do more than just, like, buff one of the characters and that's it, because if they just buff Firefly, that's going to just kind of leave Boot Hill and Rappa in the dust, and it's going to be like, why even make those characters break in the first place, But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see if they even bother doing anything with it at all. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.